Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Always exciting to be back.
Yet today we're heading to a region that's, well, it's often in the news, but not usually for its wildlife.
Definitely.
We're talking about Afghanistan, ready to uncover some of the hidden gems of the animal kingdom.
Absolutely. Afghanistan might be known for its rugged landscape and, complex history, but it's also home to some truly remarkable creatures.
Okay, so first things first. I've been looking at these incredible photos, and it's clear that Afghanistan has a really diverse range of habitats,
Oh,
right?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got soaring mountains,
Right.
and then you've got these arid deserts,
Yeah.
and you can't forget the grasslands and forests, too.
Wow, so with all those different environments, I bet there's a ton of variety in the animals that live there.
Oh, you better believe it. Each of those habitats supports like a unique collection of species.
Okay, well, before we jump into the specifics, I've got to ask.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Afghanistan has faced a lot of challenges in recent decades.
Sure.
So how on earth have scientists been able to study these animals in such a, well, tough environment?
Right. Well, it hasn't been easy, that's for sure. The terrain is incredibly challenging, like you said, and there's been a lot of, historical isolation.
Yeah.
But there's good news. In recent years, there have been more and more conservation efforts focusing on the region.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Plus, with new technology like camera traps, we're getting a much clearer picture of what's out there.
Okay, so let's meet some of these amazing creatures. First up, we're going high into the mountains, home of the snow leopard. This has got to be one of the most iconic animals, right?
Oh, absolutely. The snow leopard is like the phantom of the peaks.
I love that.
So elusive, perfectly adapted to those harsh, high-altitude environments.
Now, when I think of snow leopards, I think of those incredible blue eyes. I mean, stunning. But how did people even know these animals existed in such remote areas? Like, who was the first to discover them?
Well, like with so many amazing creatures, the first hints often come from local communities.
Oh, okay.
They've been living alongside these animals for centuries.
Makes sense.
So there were stories and, pelts that made their way to traders, and that kind of sparked the curiosity of, Western explorers and scientists.
Right, so it was those local stories that really got the ball rolling.
Exactly. And then in modern times, organizations like the Wildlife Conservation Society, WCS, they've been doing some amazing work with camera traps.
Camera traps, those are so cool. You basically get to spy on the animals without disturbing them.
Yeah, pretty much. And what they've found is fascinating.
Okay, like what?
Well, for example, we now know that snow leopards are mostly active at dawn and dusk.
So they're like the ultimate cat burglars of the mountains, huh?
I like that. And they also use scent marking to kind of establish their territories. So the camera traps have been super helpful in revealing all those little secrets.
Wow, it's amazing what technology can do. Okay, so we've explored the snowy peaks. Now let's come down a bit, shall we? Our next stop is
The realm of the Polo Sheep.
yes. I can't believe these animals are named after, the famous explorer.
It's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it's like stepping back in time. Can you imagine encountering this incredible creature on, like, a mountainside? They're huge.
They are. And their horns. Absolutely massive. They can grow to like over 5 feet long.
Seriously, 5 feet.
It's true. So you can imagine Marco Polo being pretty impressed when he supposedly spotted these sheep during his travels way back in the 13th century.
Yeah, that must have been quite a sight.
Right. And his accounts actually piqued the interest of a lot of people. But it wasn't until the 19th and 20th centuries that, real scientific studies of these sheep really kicked off.
Ah, so it took a while to get those in-depth studies going.
Yeah, researchers had to, brave the Wakhan Corridor.
I've seen pictures of that area. It looks
Yeah.
unbelievably rugged.
It is. High altitude, harsh conditions, you name it. But they were determined to, observe these sheep and document everything. And what they found is incredible. Like, these sheep have adapted to survive in that, extreme environment.
Wow, nature's so incredible. Okay, so we've seen the snow leopard, met the majestic Marco Polo sheep. What's next on our Afghan safari?
Well, let's switch gears and head to the arid and semi-arid regions of Afghanistan. This is where you'll find the striped hyena.
Striped hyena. Okay, I'm not as familiar with this one. I'm picturing like a smaller, skinnier version of the spotted hyena.
You're on the right track.
Yeah.
They're a bit smaller than their African cousins, and they have, those distinctive vertical stripes.
Stripes, got it.
And unlike the spotted hyenas, which hunt in packs, These guys are solitary
So
scavengers.
they're like the cleanup crew of the desert.
Exactly, playing a crucial role in the ecosystem, keeping things clean and balanced.
I see. So they're important for keeping the desert healthy. But how long have we known about these striped hyenas? I mean, were they discovered around the same time as those Marco Polo sheep?
Actually, striped hyenas have been on our radar for quite a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah, European naturalists, the folks who were exploring all over the globe, they documented them during their expeditions and travels.
So they were traveling along those old trade routes, huh?
Yeah, that's right, back in the 18th and 19th centuries, so we've got records going back a couple hundred years.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Okay, well, I'm learning so much about Afghan wildlife. What other surprises do you have in store?
Well, how about a creature you might never have heard of?
Oh, now you've got me intrigued.
Let me introduce you to the Pallas's cat.
Pallas's cat. Okay, that's a new one for me.
They're these small, incredibly fluffy felines.
Fluffy cats. I'm listening.
And they live in the rocky steppes and grasslands of central and northern Afghanistan.
Okay, so picture this. You're out exploring the steppes, and suddenly you spot this ball of fluff just chilling on a rock. That's the Pallas's cat.
Pretty much. And they're masters of camouflage. I mean, they just blend right in with their surroundings.
Wow, stealthy and fluffy. That's quite a combo.
Exactly. And, despite being known to science for like centuries.
Century.
Yeah, they were named after Peter Simon Pallas, a German naturalist. He described them way back in the 18th century.
So they've been on the books for a long time.
Yeah, but they're incredibly elusive. But thankfully, with those trusty camera traps, we've been able to confirm that they're definitely hanging out in Afghanistan.
Ah, so those camera traps are really pulling their weight. And what about studying them? Like, I imagine it's tough to learn about animals that are so good at hiding.
It definitely is. But the camera traps are letting us observe their behavior in ways we never could before.
Awesome. Okay, before we wrap up, I'm curious about one more animal. I know Afghanistan has some forested areas, so I'm guessing there must be some, bigger animals there too.
You bet. We can't forget about the Asiatic black bear.
Oh yeah, bears. I'm guessing the local folks have known about these guys for a long time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Generations and generations.
Right, they're hard to miss. But when did scientists first start documenting them?
Well, we have records from Western explorers and researchers going back to the 19th century.
Okay, so that's when those first Western accounts started popping up.
Exactly. And then there were more studies on their habitat and behavior throughout the 20th century. It's a great example of how scientific knowledge often builds upon, the knowledge of local communities.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? From snowy mountains to deserts to forests, Afghanistan is clearly teeming with life.
It really is. And it highlights just how important those conservation efforts are.
Absolutely. Protecting these animals and their, fragile habitats.
Right. It's not just about, saving individual species. It's about preserving whole ecosystems.
Well said. And, as we've been chatting about all these incredible creatures, it really makes you think about the bigger picture. I mean, how will things like human activities and climate change affect these animals and their habitats?
Yeah.
And can these species actually thrive alongside an increasing human presence? Like, what's our responsibility in all of this?
Those are the million-dollar questions.
They really are. It's something for all of us to think about as we continue to explore and, hopefully appreciate the wonders of our planet. Thanks for joining us on this Afghan adventure.
It's been my pleasure.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.
See you then.